Hello world, welcome to my channel, Proteus Augustus. I'm an artist, a scientist, and an American Constitutionist. Last video, I gave a brief introduction to my art project called The Objective Observer. Today, I'd like to talk a little bit about what it means to be an American Constitutionist. But before I do so, I want to give a quick definition on race from an anthropological point of view. I am not in the camp that race and culture are the same thing. Rather, race is a morphological distinction within our species. That means there's only really 5 races based on bone structure of the face. There are Mongoloids, Negroids, Caucasoids, the Pygmies, and the Aborigines. Now, some scientists don't want to use that terminology anymore, but it's a hard fact. If you were to examine any other species on Earth, you would differentiate them with respect to their morphological characteristics. We are animals. So therefore, taking an objective view, we should apply the same standards. So to me, there's a difference between culture and race. In other words, if you were to look at an Indian man or a Middle Eastern person, you cannot be racist against them. They're all Caucasoids. They're all part of the same race. There are cultural differences, and this is where the rub is. During the course of human existence, we've been competing against each other. Subgroups from one part of the world to the other advanced independently based on their skill sets and their resources. That determined their overall physiological systems and their outlook on the world. Whoever was in charge set the tone intellectually, and usually that was by force. I mean, if you went and you looked at the Greeks, say what you will about, their sexuality or whatever picayune point you want to make, Aristotle, Socrates, these men were advanced in logical thinking. But they were suppressed by the less intellectual, less IQ persons around them who controlled society. Again, it was the same with the Renaissance period. The Medicis, although may not have been the greatest people in the world, but over 200 years, they brought the Renaissance period in because they were interested in art. Michelangelo, Leonardo, Donatello. I mean, these men brought a lot to the table. What happened? The church. Not only did some of the Medicis go and become a pope and destroy the faith, but therein afterwards, they brought in the Inquisition, to take Galileo down, which stunted the growth of human endeavor, intellectually speaking. So there's a constant clash between the people who want to rule the world, whether megalomania or whatever, their egos, drive them to do so, versus other people who have intellectual pursuits that seek the truth. This is a constant struggle. So culturally speaking, you may have the American Indians, who were happy with what they were doing. But they were so far at a disadvantage because they were just a stagnant culture, moving from one spot to the other. This is not to say that they didn't have a good culture, that they weren't entitled to have a culture. But again, humanity is a group of humans that are going to compete with resources and their cultural norms. And that is no different today. Fortunately for myself, I wasn't born in those times. Okay? I, like any other person, would have been limited to what I was being told. I could have been pressed into slavery. Yes, that's right. White people were slaves, probably more so than the Africans over the millennia. That's just a fact. Or I could have been pressed into service to bring the sword down on someone I knew nothing about. But if I did not, the sword would be brought down on me. Fortunately, though, when American Revolution ended, the framers brought to us a philosophy knowing full well that the world was not perfect and it wasn't going to be in their lifetime. But they gave us the opportunity through the Bill of Rights to perfect this society. What more could they do? Now, you could say that Thomas Jefferson was a slave owner, George Washington was a slave owner. Listen, the story is a lot more complicated than that. And if you don't have the time to educate yourself about world history and you want to go by what AOC or some of these other left-leaning, little snippets of history, then you're putting yourself at a disadvantage. And, in some ways, that's what they count on. Because the more ignorant you are, they can go back to old ideas and try to seek power. And let's face it, that's what these politicians are in the business of. Seeking power to elevate themselves so that they can get money just like anybody else. So, American Constitutionalism doesn't have anything to do or is anchored in biology. It has nothing to do with race. What it is a set of values and principles that give people the opportunity to be the best that they can be and to shape the society in a direction of perfection. Of course, perfection will never be reached. We're imperfect animals. But at least that's the best document that has ever been created in this world. Magna Carta was a good shot, but it isn't the American Constitution. We have freedom of speech, okay, freedom of religion, so on and so forth. You should know that. And if you don't, it's unfortunate. So basically, to say that an American is a racist is not true at all. American philosophy is a culture that is worth fighting for. Any other culture in this world today is basically ruled by the hand of a few people with no opportunity to redirect. And this is the position we're in today. Unfortunately, the Western politicians are playing into their hands. They think by intertwining cultures that things are going to get better, instead of forwarding American Constitutionalism and explaining why it works for everyone, regardless of race or culture or where you come from. The problem is when people from other lands come with their own culture and try to reshape ours. That's not going to happen, people. Think what you will. The Chinese can pay off as many politicians as they want. The Russians can try to go back into South America. But eventually, American Constitutionalism will prevail, because our system gives the people the opportunity to redirect. Even in the worst case, when it comes to the Second Amendment. That's right. The Second Amendment is a constitutional right of the American people to redirect this country and take it from tyranny. Now, fortunately, that will never happen. But our founding fathers knew through history and through their own endeavors what other peoples will do to seize power. Let's face it, a lot of people that run the world are not the brightest people. So our founding fathers knew that. That's why we have a House of Representatives, to represent the common person from a financial standpoint and a local standpoint. And then they gave us the Senate. That's why there's only 2 per state. It doesn't matter how many people are in your state, because Congress deals with that apportionment. It is the senators who are more financially equipped and societally placed to have a check against the common man. And then we have the executive. The executive is there to represent the people as a whole. So when people attack the president, they're really attacking the American people who voted for him. It's not Trump this and Trump that. So when the Ayatollah puts out a video on YouTube saying, oh, we're not against the American people, we're just against Donald Trump and his underlings, that's how ignorant he is. He doesn't understand that he represents us. Or if you want to say 50%, so be it. That's what he doesn't understand. They still think that they're going to be able to talk us out of our way of life. They are not. So, unfortunately, at some point, when resources dwindle, or whatever the circumstances may be, we're either going to have to fight and a culture will win, or we're going to have to become an interplanetary species. The only other option is decide what you think is the best way of life for everyone. Do you want to be free to pursue your own interests? Do you want to believe in God or not? Do you want to be able to put people in office that you want there and to remove them if need be at your will? Or do you just merely want to be a cog in the machine of some guy at the top or woman directing human endeavors to their own needs and wants and desires? The choice is clear to me. There's no need to rewrite an American Constitution, although amendments could be made, but our fathers made it very difficult to do because they wanted the people to be absolutely sure that this is the direction they want to take the country. So I would ask all of you to sit back and really consider what you think the world should be, because that time is coming, ladies and gentlemen. In 2 years, I'll have six decades behind me. At this point in my life, I could be here today and gone tomorrow. It is a lot of you young people who need to educate yourself on world history, what has been tried and what has failed, why it's failed, and apply it to yourself. If someone wants to take your cell phone, are you going to be a victim? Maybe you would be. Guy like me, I ain't no victim. But why would you give it up? That's your choice. Anyways, I just want to make one more comment with respect to freedom of religion. Any religion that tries to extend itself to a government is a theocracy. And that is simply incompatible with the Bill of Rights. So when someone tells you, hey, this is my religion, I should be able to sever a clitoris, I should be able to cut a man's hand off for stealing something, or any other draconian punishment. You know where I'm going with this. That's not a religion. That's a government. And those two we got rid of a long time ago when we overthrew the king, King George. Remember him? Maybe not. Look it up. We fought those battles already. And it's only ignorance that's going to force us to fight it again. And we will. Americans are black, white, Asian. They're Americans because they believe in freedom, to be the best that they can be, and to be able to think what they want. So, stop saying that defending American philosophy is a racist one. It is not. Until next time, think free and be free.